ready. Morning, my dear students. I think you are very well today. And already I have introduced myself to you previously. You know, I am lecturer in English, Department of English, and in fact I am the youngest lecturer of English department. And today I am going to take class in English. So you have got a number of classes already by other teachers, and I think you have already bought your textbook for class 11 and 12, you know, for today. The textbook published by NCTP of Bangladesh. So have bought the textbook, have already known the contents of the book. Perhaps you know how many units are there in the book. If you turn over the page, you will see there are 15 units in the book, and in these units you will find some passages and some poems, that is some prose writings as well as some poems. So when you study the book, definitely a question comes to your mind: what should be learned in 11 and 12 class, and what would be the pattern of questions when you study the book? You know, in SSC level, JSC level, and on kind of question pattern. Intermediate level, that is in HSC level, have also a different kind of question pattern. So the tutor, many students about pattern of questions. What kind of questions come in English? What kind of questions come in English? Many of are waiting for getting answers type of. Therefore, today I am here to talk about marks distribution of English first paper and second paper. So, dear students, must listen, and what will be the items? What will be the items that you will get in questions? This first paper, and what type of get in paper, and their marks. That is the marks each question carries. You will know today. Let's talk about marks distribution of English first paper today. First, I would like to talk about marks distribution. You know, this is the textbook of English paper, and first paper carries 100 marks. In fact, in intermediate level, that is in HSC level, paper carries 100 marks, and English second paper carries 100 marks. So how these marks, that is 100 marks, are distributed, that will I am going to talk about now. In case of English first paper, you know, the marks, the questions are divided into two categories. First, number one is reading. Reading part consists of 60 marks. First, reading part consists of 60 marks, and the other part, writing part, consists of 40 marks. Now the question of what type of questions get of these marks, that is very important to know. At the very beginning of the question, that is, if you study a board question of English first paper, at the very beginning, at the very outset of the question, you will get a passage, a text, that is, we call it passage. Passage, the first passage carries 50 marks. You will get a text, that is a passage from the textbook, and this text, this passage, that is the text, carries 50 marks. Of these marks, 5 marks are MCQ, 5 marks for questions. Simple questions that will, from class 3 we have been facing this type of questions, is WS question or yes no question, type of written, and you have to answer the question, and for there are 10 marks. So out of passage, first text, you have to answer 2 types of questions, MCQ and general question that we call WS question or yes no question. You know, is WS question or yes no question, questions carry 10 marks. There will be 5 questions, and each question carries 2 marks. If each question carries 2 marks, then 5 questions, 5 into 2 is 10 marks. So from the passage, the first passage of the question taken from English for today, you know, this English for your English for today, from this textbook passage will be taken, and based on the passage you have to answer 2 types of questions, and general question, that is WS question or yes no question. So we have got 15 marks. Now after this passage you will again face a second passage. The first passage 10 marks, passage, second passage, a text. This second passage carries 10 marks. So 50 plus 10. But what type of question you will face from this text, second passage? And that flow chart. Maybe you are familiar with this term, flow chart. And so a flow chart been based on this second passage, and the flow chart carries 10 marks. So out of this passage, that is the based on second passage or text, there will be flow chart, and the flow chart carries 10 marks. So now you see plus 10, 25. And flow chart, what is a flow chart and how to write the flow chart, I will talk about in next classes, not today. So we have got 3 passages. Next there will be passage or text. It also carries 10 marks. But what type of question will get based on third passage? Based on third passage, that is summary writing summary. That is, there will be a passage and you have to summarize the passage. If you can summarize the passage, get 10 marks. That is, summary contains 10 marks. So in the first passage 10 marks, second passage 10 marks, third passage 10 marks. So now it is 35. So then what will be? We have got 35 marks. I mentioned that reading section contains, that is carries 16 marks. Now we have got distribution of 35 marks. Then in number 4, there is closed test with clues. And you are familiar with this question even in class 5, in class 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Have done this type of questions. Closed test with clues. Closed test and closed test clues carries 5 marks. So there will be a passage, a text, and there will be gaps inside the text that we often that is popularly known as closed test with clues. In this question, there will be 10 gaps, and in a box there will be at least 12 words, and your vocabulary will be tested. Your strength of vocabulary, power of vocabulary will be tested by this question, closed test. That is, the clues, the words will be given in a box, and reading the passage, you have to answer, that is, you have to fill in the gaps, taking words or phrases from the box. And you must know that often the text, that is the passage of this closed test with clues, often out of the text, that is unseen passage. Passages are often given in case of closed test clues. So it carries 5 marks. Then comes number 5. Number 5 is, it's also a familiar question given in class in SSC level, JSC level. We have done this closed test without clues. Like question 4, there will be passages and there will be gaps in the passage, and you have to fill in the gaps. But here the difference is, there is a difference between question 4 and 5. That is, in case of question 4, the words will be given in a box above the passage, but in case of 5, there will be gaps, but no words or phrases will be given in the box. So that's why it is called closed test without clues. That is, no clues will be given in the box. So closed test without clues. It carries 10 marks. The closed test 5 marks, there will be 10 gaps but 5 marks. But in case of closed test without clues, there will be 10 gaps, and for the 10 gaps, 10 marks. Now, the final one of reading part. And there will be rearranging. You know, rearrangement, this question is also very, very familiar to you, because in class 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 have done rearrangement. So there is nothing that I can explain here about rearrangement. For rearrangement, 10 marks is left. So rearrangement, marks. So this is 6 marks. 15, 25, 35, 40, 50, 60. So here we have got 60 marks here. Now writing part. Here in writing part you also get some clear questions. For example, writing a paragraph. Some questions will be given for the paragraph, and based on these questions you have to compose a paragraph. And for paragraph we'll see 10 marks. That is a paragraph carries 10 marks. Writing paragraph. Marks. Then you will see completing a story. It's also a familiar topic. The beginning of the story will be given, and reading the beginning based on your imagination, you have to complete the story. So completing the story also contains 7 marks. 7 marks. And a new item perhaps for you, maybe you haven't done this type of question. It's analyzing or explaining maps, graphs or chart. So in question there will be a graph, or there will be a chart, or maybe there will be a map, and you have to study the map or chart or the graph, and next, looking at the chart or graph or the map, you have to explain what is own chart or map or the graph, explain in words. And these explaining or analyzing maps, graphs or charts carries 10 marks, you know. Okay, maps or charts, 10 marks. So the last one. What is the last item? Okay. Maybe this is appreciating a poem or a story. A poem will be given or a story will be given. You have to read the poem or the story. After reading the story or the poem, you have to write, that is, you have to appreciate it. That is, how to appreciate. What will be included in your appreciation? Normally, appreciation many things, but in your level, first of all, you have to identify the theme, then you have to write subject matter, or then to some extent you can interpret. That is, interpreting, writing subject matter, indicating themes. These simple matters of a poem or of a story will be written. Case of this question, that is appreciating poem or short story, you know. So this question carries 8 marks. Poems or stories. Bear in mind, in question number 3, often in most of the cases, a passage is given, but sometimes it's possible a poem. If you analyze the previous board questions, most of the times you see a passage is given and you need to write the summary of the passage. But it's also possible, there is a possibility that you may find a poem and you may need to write a summary of the poem. And even in case of the last question, most of the time we get a poem, and students most of the time in board questions get a poem and they need to write the theme of the poem, that is appreciate the poem. But it's also possible, there is an option that instead of appreciating a poem, you may find a story and you need to write the theme of the study. So, in case of 3 and 10, the last question of 3, there may have variations. That is, there are alternatives. And if we analyze the previous question, yes, that if a passage is given in question, normally a poem is given in the last question, question number 10. Again, if this is a simple analogy I am just telling. If a story is given here in number 10, that is the final question, normally a poem is given in question number 3. So you have to take in poem preparations by answering this type of this question and tag. So this is the normal mark distribution of word. That is distribution of case of grammar part. 60 marks. There will be 12 questions. Here is 5 marks. So 12 into 5 is equal to 60. So there will be 12 questions. 12 types of questions in grammar part. What would be the article? Fill in the gaps using articles. That is, you have to fill in the gaps, and in the gaps, you have to write articles A and there will be 5 gaps, 10 gaps, and for the 10 gaps, you will get 5 marks. Okay, articles first. gaps using prepositions. So number 2, prepositions. Like the previous one, there will be 10 gaps. In these 10 gaps, you have to write 10 prepositions. For these 10 gaps, you will get 5 marks. Number 3. This is to some extent new to you. Maybe some students are familiar with the phrases or words, but the question is perhaps new, because in question there will be special uses of some words or phrases. I am giving some example for like would rather, had better, no sooner had, lest, let alone. These type of phrases or introductory there, introductory. This type of phrases or words and their special uses will be tested in question 3. That is, there a box will be given. Inside the box there will be some phrases and you have to write the special uses of the phrases. That is, there will be some sentences and in the sentences there will have gaps. You have to fill in the gaps based fill in the gaps using the phrases given in the box based on their special uses. So these special uses of phrase or words also carry 5 marks. Use of words or phrases. Number 4. This is also common to you. Completing sentence. That is, the number of sentences will be given and the sentences must be incomplete. Based on your sense, following grammatical rules and the uses of English language, you have to complete these sentences. One part of the sentence will be written and other part should be written. These completing sentences also carries 5 marks. Complete sentence. Then use of the right form of verbs, and these use of right form of verbs also carries 5 marks. You know, you are familiar with this term. There will be gaps and the base form of the verbs will be given in the gaps, but reading the whole passage, reading the context, understanding the context, you have to write the correct forms of the verbs, the brackets. So next, after right form verbs, you will find changing sentences. That is popularly called transformation of sentence. This transformation of sentence carries 5 marks, and you are familiar with this type of question, that is changing or transformation of sentences. Then you will see narrative style. In SSC level, even in class 6-7, we have done narration. In a different way, in SSC level, the question is called narrative style. That is, these changing the style of narration from direct to indirect or indirect to direct also carries 5 marks. Then you will see pronoun reference. Maybe this item is new to you, but if you study the question, it's very familiar to you. will be very familiar to you. This pronoun reference or pronoun we call noun pronoun agreement. This noun pronoun agreement or pronoun reference also carries 5 marks. Then you will see use of modifiers. Maybe this modifier, the term is new to you, but it is also an easy. This use of modifiers also has 5 marks. Then you will see use of sentence connectors. Maybe it's a familiar question, known question to you. So the use of sentence connectors also has 5 marks. Then you will see writing synonyms and antonyms. This writing synonyms and antonyms also has 5 marks. Then punctuation marks, it also carries 5 marks. So these are the 12 types of questions in the grammar section of English second part. Okay, time is over. No more today. I will explain the other part next day. Thank you very much. I think you have understood the question patterns of ACC, and please study at home and watch our live class, the classes of intermediate level ACC. Thank you very much. See you again.